Hello students, I welcome you all to this mind map discussion on the relationship of anthropology with medical sciences. Now first let us have a bird's eye view of the whole mind map. Here we begin with the introduction, thereafter we go for the historical background in which we will be studying about medical science which has been a part of anthropology, the portion of medical science which has been a part of anthropology and how it has contributed to the development of anthropology. Thereafter, we will be going for the relationship as per our discussion, we will be going for the relationship between anthropology and medical science. Here we will discuss in the first mind map, we will be discussing between the relation between physical anthropology and medical sciences, while in the second mind map, as you can see, we will be discussing the relationship between socio-cultural anthropology and medical science. Thereafter, we will go for how behavioral patterns are followed and in order to prevent diseases and the medical evidences for the same. Thereafter, we will be knowing the difference between anthropology and medical science, and finally, we will be concluding with how medical science and anthropology are different, but still contribute to the improvement or contribute to the achievements of each other. So, let us begin. See, when I talk about, first of all, when I talk about medical science and anthropology, the amalgamation of these two sort of different disciplines has given rise to something called medical anthropology, which is a very important subfield of anthropology. So, first let us understand what is medical science and what is the what are the basic premises of medical science. Medical science deals with the prevention, diagnostics and treatment of various diseases as a part of, as we have mentioned, management of diseases. Okay. And since human health is understood from the perspective of both things, that is your human biology as well as the culture in which a human being lives, or you can say, as we have already told you in the previous classes, that culture affects human beings or the overall well-being of a human being. So, that is why the human health is understood from these two perspectives, and hence physical anthropology as well as socio-cultural anthropology are very much associated with medical science. Now, there are also some differences which we will be discussing later on. First, let us understand how it developed, the historical background. See, before going into all these mind maps, let me explain you some things about the history of anthropology and medical science. Much of the development of this medical anthropology branch that has occurred post World War II, or during, you can say, from the period of World War II. The major, like the beginning of this major involvement of anthropology in medical problems was basically portion of applied anthropology. Okay. And even at that time, during the World War II, involvement of anthropologists and other social scientists in the health program as well as medical research has changed considerably when we see the present context or the present times. And obviously, as of now, there has been a marked increase in the input of social scientists in the field of medicine or medical related areas. Now, let us proceed to understand what is mentioned, what we have mentioned in the mind map. Here, see, when we review some literature about medical sciences or medical literature, medical historians, we find that anthropologists have made significant contribution in the field of medicine. In 1942, pronounce this as Ackerneck. Okay, it's a German name, Ackerneck, So, some people say it as Ackernecht also. You can say it Ackerneck or Ackernecht as per your convenience. So, he was a medical historian. What he said, according to his reports or according to his view, he has contributed a series of scientific papers on primitive medicine, and these papers, they have provided a very useful insight to anthropologists for conducting their research on the indigenous system of medicine or the primitive system of medicine. In 1947, a series of researches on the role of anthropology in psychosomatic medicine by anthropologists like we have Henry and Margaret Mead, that also contributed to the development of medical anthropology. Clements, he tried to trace the worldwide distribution of 5 basic concepts of diseases, that is your sorcery, then you have breach of taboo, object intrusion, spirit intrusion and soul loss. These are the areas due to which primitive societies believed that there is the advent of diseases basically comes from these things, that is your sorcery, or you can say magic, like like accidents, stumblings, etc. Amongst the Australian aborigines, they believe they are a they are a simple society, so they believe it is because of some magic or sorcery. Okay. Death is never, in such primitive societies, death is never regarded as due to natural causes, but it is always ascribed to something like magic or sorcery. Then the diagnosis or the treatment of the diseases, such diseases is done in such primitive societies by traditional medicines, as a, you can say, as a counter magic or a counter sorcery. Then we have the second thing, that is your breach of taboo. Okay. There is something called voodoo death, VOODOO, voodoo death. Okay. Now, this voodoo death, here what happens is that the victim dies of shock. Okay. And the victim is the victim's body is not like, it's scarcely distinguishable from you can get a true wound, it is not distinguishable from a true wound. So, here it is done, basically it is believed that it is done by some traditional method or some taboo which was there, and the person or the victim has breached that taboo. Thereafter, we have something like object intrusion, that is called when a foreign object enters the human body, and it can be caused by some human or superhuman force, and that is why it has some spiritual connection, or it has some spiritual essence in it, which is actually believed to be the real cause of the disease. Then we have spirit intrusion. What is spirit intrusion? Here the disease is believed to be caused by a spirit, a ghost, a demon, and in such a case there are basically 3 curative measures or 3 curative principles, which are, the first one, let me just write down. The first one is, I will just a second, I will reduce the size of this. Yeah, the first one is your exorcism, that is something like you would have seen in your horror movies, like that Ed and Lauren used to do in the series like Annabelle and all. So, there you would have seen that they perform exorcism. Now, exorcism is like they conjure something, they conjure the spirit, okay, and they direct it to leave the body in the holy in the name of the Holy Spirit. So, this is what is exorcism all about. Then second one is your mechanical extraction. Mechanical extraction. This is also another curative measure, and the last one is transference. A person takes the spirit away from that body to another body. Mechanical extraction is they put that spirit into some object, or like as you can say some foreign object, they use the object as a vessel for the spirit. And transference is the soul is, or the spirit is transferred from one body to another person. So, this is what is called transference. Okay, these are the three things which are the curative measures for spirit intrusion. And the last one is soul loss. Okay, that we already know that it's the you can say it's a condition in which a person dies, obviously, but here soul loss does not mean necessarily mean that the soul is moved out of the body or something. What they mean by this is some sort of, you can say, organ loss, or a part of the body is lost. Like for example, in the Australian Aborigines, it is believed that when from a human body the kidney fat is extracted, then it is a common cause for that soul loss. It may be removed by sorcery, obviously, and it always leads to death. It is that it is what the primitive society of Australian Aborigines, they believe that. Now we will come to the next thing. What Ackerneck did is that in 1942, Ackerneck he mentioned on primitive medicine that primitive medicine is not a collection of errors or superstitions. He believed that it is it cannot be explained in the medical field by simply stating that the primitives used spells, prayers, or bloodletting or human fat, etc. It is not about basically about the forms in which they removed, or they named, or they categorized the diseases, or they diagnosed the diseases, or they treated the diseases. It is not about the forms, but it is essentially about the place the medicine occupied in the life of the tribals, the position or the high regard with which that medicine was treated by the tribals. Then we come to the main topic of discussion, that is the relationship between anthropology and physical anthropology and medical sciences. See, anthropology is nothing but a combined study of the cultural as well as biological condition of human beings. Now, in this scientific study of anthropology, we consider all aspects of human beings. Like while studying an individual, the anthropologists take a holistic approach. They consider all the socio-cultural factors that affect the human beings, and they conclude the research of the past as well as the present of the individual. So, this is what anthropology is all about. Now, it is based actually you can say, and before going whether how it is related to physical anthropology, let us know that anthropological study is based on empirical research. It is based on empirical research. Empirical studies is it's research based study. It is based on direct observation or experiences. Okay, it is analyzed qualitatively as well as quantitatively, and this combination of qualitative and quantitative forms, it helps answer the questions which cannot be just answered by some social experimentation. See, excuse me. See, when we consider the physical anthropology and medical science, they basically have a close proximity and they enjoy a close inter as well as transdisciplinary relationship. It is understood that physical anthropology is incomplete and it is programmatic, with its specific branches being in a close relationship with medical science. Now, as a part of study of human variation, anthropology studies blood group typing. Then we have this human leukocyte antigen system, which is also part of medical science. Then we have in anthropology we have demographic studies. See, all these things are part of your syllabus. As we move forward, you will understand that, and those of you who have already gone through the mind maps, I am sure you would have studied all these as well. So, demographic study or it's dermatoglyphic study. So, dermatoglyphics or the dermatographic study, it's a part of physical anthropology, which is a branch of forensic medicine. Okay. Then we have here dermatoglyphics also is a portion of your anthropology, which has a huge you can say it has a huge impact in the present crime scene investigation, and is a part of medical anthropology as well, medical sciences as well. Then we have comparative anatomy, we have anthropometry, which is the area of study of physical anthropology, and it helps in the development of prosthetics. You have this not just artificial limbs, all formation of prosthetics. Anthropometry is very much essential. Anthropometry is also used in sports, it is used everywhere. Then see, physical anthropology, obviously it contributes in investigating the nature and extent of various diseases, like whether a disease is hereditary or not, whether you can say we study about the growth patterns, we study about aging, senescence, all these things. We study about the growth trends, the abnormalities. Then again, we in physical anthropology, we also understand how the environment affects our physical well-being. So, all these are assessed by your physical anthropologists, and these essentially are a portion of medical sciences as well. So, in this manner we can say that anthropology and medical sciences are related. See, here in many countries, the anatomical department of medical science must recruit anthropologists mandatorily. Gerontology, when we come to this portion, gerontology, which is a very essential part of your medical sciences, and which is a very demanding part of medical science as well, because it deals with the growth and development patterns of human beings, which physical anthropology deals with, and gerontology deals with the patterns of old age. So, physical anthropology also helps in understanding gerontology or the patterns of old age, and thereby it helps elderly people grapple with the problem of aging, as well as here physical anthropology helps understanding of gerontology, and it also helps the policy makers in together, both physical anthropology and gerontology as a combination. They contribute a lot for policy makers in understanding the problems of aging in elderly people, and thereby making some senior citizen friendly infrastructures. Physical anthropology also has found out the causes behind your hereditary character of diseases, as I have told you before, and this has benefited medical science as well. When we come to genetic engineering, biotechnology is studied from anthropology as well as medical science perspective in order to protect and promote human health, and at the same time prevent, diagnose as well as treat various diseases. Now, we will move further into, before moving I will just tell some a few things about physical anthropology and medical science, and we have something called medical anthropology. See, I will just give you a brief about that. See, the aim of anthropology is to demonstrate rationally what is specifically human, and it is in the most fundamental physiological function of, with medical science defending the standards. This has led to the origin of new disciplines. See, again I will explain, again I will repeat it. See, the aim of anthropology here in terms of medical science, when we are reading this, how medical anthropology came into being, it is because the aim of anthropology is to demonstrate rationally what being specifically human, and that is the most fundamental physiological, what is the most fundamental physiological functions, with medical science defining the standards. Here anthropology determines the physiological functions and medical science defines the standards of these physiological functions, and this together has led to the emergence of a new discipline that is known as medical anthropology, which incorporates both your physical anthropology as well as medical science. See, both medical anthropology as well as medical science, they are concerned, as the name suggests, they are concerned with the study of diseases, they are concerned with the study of health, but the perspective or the way of approaching that is different in medical science and medical anthropology. How is it different? Medical anthropology, it studies health and diseases in primitive societies in the socio-cultural dimension. It involves the study of sorcery, as I have told you before, witchcraft, then you have ritualistic practices, the herbal medicines. So, all these are understood in order to understand the health and diseases in tribal societies. But on the other hand, medical science studies health and diseases in modern societies in terms of biological factors like your virus, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, all that. So, this is what is the main difference between medical anthropology and medical science, and medical anthropology, as I have told you, has emerged from physical anthropology and from the amalgamation of physical anthropology and medical science. With this, we will conclude the explanation of relationship between physical anthropology and medical, physical anthropology and medical sciences in the previous slide. Yeah. So, now we will go to the relationship between socio-cultural anthropology and medical science. See, here the concept of disease and well-being is culturally determined. For example, some tribal people in India, they do not consider themselves as sick as long as they are not bedridden. This you will be seeing in many tribal societies. The diagnosis of diseases, here also there are socio-cultural mechanisms to diagnose several types of diseases and their symptoms. For example, in rural Bengal, snake bite is diagnosed by tasting of green chilies by the victim. Suppose what happened, when the victim bites on the green chili, it is bitter, then the bite from the snake is that of a poisonous snake. Now, again, the treatment of disease in every society, certain knowledge of leaves and bark of tree is present to cure diseases. For example, we already know tulsi leaves and honey, it is used to cure common cold, sore throat, all that. We used to drink kadha when we get common cold, all that. Even during corona time, you all would be knowing, to improve your immunity, it was suggested to drink kadha. Although there were many reports that there is no scientific backing, some reports were there that there is scientific backing, we will not go into that controversy, but this is what happened. Then we have ethnobotany. This is nothing but the primitive pharmacopoeia. It means that using plants as medicine for diagnosis as well as cure of many diseases by simple society. For example, the Kanu tribe, which they live in the Nilgiri hills, they use herbal medicine for increasing the resistance to diseases. For improving their resistance power to diseases, they use herbal medicine. Since then there actually this knowledge has reached the drug research institutes belonging to the MNCs. Certain diseases are regarded as supernaturally inflicted, as I have told you before, and for management of these kind of diseases, a priest or a magician, or you can say someone who practices witchcraft, they prescribe the patient to, they take, let us say, take a dip in a particular pond, or to visit some places of pilgrimage, or to do some you can say dan dharma, like that, or to give some donations to people, as I have told you. So, these things are suggested by medicine, like priests and practitioners who are particularly like who are of like who prescribe those you can say such remedies to the patient, and they have specific position in the society, that such and such a person only can prescribe the patient. Anyone, any Tom, Dick and Harry cannot go and prescribe the patient. So, it is by such priests or magicians or people who practice witchcraft, those who prescribe the patient to do such things. Thereafter, we will go to the prevention of diseases. See, for the prevention of diseases, you can say certain behavioral patterns regarding your food habits, or regarding you can say food itself, or such an like it is followed, and there is certain hygienic notion in every that can differ from one society to another, but overall there is some hygienic concern or hygienic notion in every society. See, the medical evidence for this purpose is also available. The prevention by cultural practice. Here we will give the example of Sahalia tribe in MP, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan. They use certain herbs as contraceptives. Then we will go to the difference of anthropology and medical science, but yes, before that I will just discuss some role what we have discussed over here overally about social anthropology and your medical science, is that we have basically focused on the role of social anthropologists in public health, and their work is to determine the health related problems with a socio-anthropological perspective. Okay. That is, they understand the public health problems, they design the public health interventions in order to avoid such problems, they evaluate the public health initiatives, and obviously they are the critic of public health policies and public care reforms. Okay. So, this is the work of your social anthropologists as in terms of public health services. Now, let us move forward. Let us move to the differences between anthropology and medical science. What are the basic differences between anthropology and medical science? See, anthropology actually focuses both on traditional medicine as well as modern system of medicine, but here we know that the more focus is given to traditional medicine, as I have told you about the case of the branch of anthropology, that is medical anthropology. Here anthropology studies everything in a holistic manner, and we take into, it is not amount, it is account, we take into account the social, cultural practices, economic behavior, religious practices, beliefs, attitudes, everything of communities in order to understand the you can say the well-being, the physical as well as the mental well-being of societies. And here the greater stress in terms of medicine is given to folk medicine or indigenous medicine as opposed to your scientific or the modern system of medicine. On the other hand, medical science focuses on modern system of medicine. We study the disease pattern in an atomistic or part manner. We understand whether the disease is caused by protozoa or it is caused by some bacteria or some fungi or you can say some virus. We study that, and here more stress is given to scientific medicine as opposed to your folk medicine or indigenous medicine, as simple as that. Finally, we will conclude, but before conclusion I will just tell you some of the work of medical anthropologist. Here what happens is medical anthropologist relates natural sciences to humanities. Here we find the distribution of diseases and their effect on the health. Here it's an amalgamation, as you know, medical science and anthropology combined to form medical anthropologists, and here in medical anthropology they contribute to understanding the distribution of diseases and their effects on health, and what are the various methods available for treatment, then we examine the healthcare provisions, what are the awareness programs needed, and the historical conditions. All these things are the arena of medical anthropologists. So, this is all about it. Now, we will go for the conclusion. Here you would have already seen or heard during COVID-19, the pandemic, is that the study of, like, medical anthropologists, they involve themselves in the study of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the society. They searched for answers like how people get emotionally affected, how mental health issue became a very much discussed topic, and it became it made people aware about the impact of mental health and about the importance of mental health, how people get emotionally affected, how they get so much unstable that they commit suicide or they inflict self harm, how they are managing themselves to be motivated all the time, by even while staying indoors enclosed in the four walls, and how they manage their finances during the pandemic. So, all these were studied by medical anthropologists. Then we will go to the conclusion that we cannot forget the socio-cultural forces play a large role in determining the meaning of illness, the function of illness, and the way of counteracting the illness. Though both medical science and anthropology, they are different disciplines, but they borrow knowledge from each other, and with what knowledge they have or what experiences both these branches or people of these branches get, they enrich their overall understanding about the various aspects of human health. Now, human health is thus not a product of biology, but also a product of culture. With this, we conclude this explanation of the mind map on the relationship of anthropology with medical science. Have a good day. Bye-bye.